The Google podcast is sponsored by Individuality. We make a huge profit every time you dare to stand out in the face of opposition. Hello, my name is Georgiana, but you can call me Jojo. And welcome to the most coolest, epicest podcast ever. Today we're going to be touching on personal style, how it's very much thriving, contrary to what many so-called fashionistas would have you think, and how the clothes you wear is one of the most political choices you make every single day. Small disclaimer, I am no political or fashion expert, I just find the subject interesting and important too. A lot of it is just my own thoughts and opinions based on my own experiences, observations and reading and stuff, so please keep that in mind. I'm sure I'm not alone when I say it sort of feels like I'm watching the world fall apart, just waiting for the cracks to reach my shores. Which is ignorant because those cracks are already here, and once you notice them, you can't unsee them. When I get stuck in a spiral of what-ifs, as I watch uselessly while my friends across the ocean live out a present that feels like a warning for my own future, my first instinct is to hide away, blend in. It feels safer. I give in to feeling hopeless and powerless. I give in to conformity and passiveness. It's easy to. I read a book recently. It's called On Tyranny by Timothy Snyder. It was released a year into Trump's first presidency. It looks back from 2017 to the 1930s when Hitler rose to power, and towards other repressive governments that have risen and fallen and some which continue to rise. Reading it was eye-opening. It made me realise how much power everyday choices by everyday people like you and me can and do have when it comes to fighting for our human right to equality and freedom. It also helped me understand how they seized power in the first place. The first lesson stood out to me immediately. Do not obey in advance. Here's a snippet from the title page. Most of the power of authoritarianism is freely given. In times like these, individuals think ahead about what a more repressive government will want, and then offer themselves without being asked. A citizen who adapts in this way is teaching power what it can do. If the clothes we choose to wear are one of the most political choices we make each day, then it is imperative that we do not feed the lie that personal style is dead. That we do not allow ourselves to preempt what such extreme people would want us to wear. To hide our individuality, to hide our identities, cultural signifiers, community flags, is giving them power and teaches them that we will give up everything that makes us who we are and that we will not fight. We will lay down and die if they tell us to. It's natural to want to fit in when the culture shifts so extremely, at least outwardly. It can feel like guaranteed safety, but no one is safe under tyranny or potential tyranny. It doesn't matter if you strip yourself of all individuality for the sake of fitting in or becoming invisible in the crowd and removing the target from your back. Anyone who is not the ones in control is naturally a target. But regardless, there are other ways you can defend your rights, like small donations to organisations and institutions that do the harder work for us. Wearing a little pin on your lapel in support, donating time instead of money, or, another lesson I learned from Snyder's book, to simply smile and make eye contact with those who are currently being targeted, instead of crossing the street to avoid them. I feel like that sounded pretty extreme, but I do think we're living in a pretty extreme time. It's so dumb because I feel like I'm taking it all too seriously, but it is serious. These are human lives being affected, and if we allow it to go on, it's only a matter of time until the same troubles are at our doorsteps. And who will fight for us when there is no one left to fight? I'm going to go more in depth about personal style now. Let's get one thing straight. Personal style is not dead. If it was, we'd all be walking around naked, and I don't know about you, but I haven't seen that in any trend predictions yet. But maybe soon. People build personal style up to being this big, complicated thing, but no. Personal style is just what you wear. It's the clothes you wear to the grocery store. It's the clothes you wear out to a bar. It's the clothes you wear at the gym. Regardless of whether any of those fit into some kind of very specifically labelled box, it's your personal style. It is an amalgamation of you. My personal style is me in a gorgeous vintage dress with bright tights and sparkly makeup. My personal style is also me sitting in my bedroom with my hair in 2 braids and wearing my pink M&S pajamas. In an ideal world, I'd dress like a medieval princess displaced in time, or a Marie Antoinette reject 24/7, but that's just not realistic in the modern age. So I go shopping in a button-up and jeans. I travel in awesome billowy trousers. I go to the theatre overdressed and to dinner with my family like some 70s reject. It's all me. And I refuse to limit myself and put myself in a box. Personal style is also not something you can just buy. If all you do is point at someone else's style and say, "I want that," then run to Amazon and buy some cheap knockoffs, that's all your personal style will be, a cheap knockoff of someone else's. You have to live in order to develop personal style. You have to go to new places, meet so many new people who will inspire you in so many different ways. It's okay to pick parts of other people's styles and adopt it into your own, but to fully attempt to morph into them is a whole other thing. It's similar to people Birkinifying their bags, which is buying a bag, beating it up to look used, and covering it in cheap charms. Jane Birkin's bags were a reflection of who she was as a person and the life she lived. Birkinify your bag if you want to, but let it take time. Use the bag every single day. Pick up charms as you discover new places. Get given keychains from your friends. Put your grandma's scarf that you inherited around the handles instead of a cheap one you bought off of Temu. I still have clothes that I bought when I was 16 that I regularly wear. Well, the ones I can fit into. I've worn the same boots for the last 4 years, basically daily. They are an extension of me at this point. I have a number of clothes with specific memories tied to them. I can remember where I bought them, who I was with, and when I wear them, I relive that moment briefly. I own a whole lot of vintage because I love history, and since I was a child, I have been obsessed with how people dressed in the past. I didn't buy all of this in a day, a week, or even a year. It's taken me a long time to build a wardrobe that feels like me, and even now I know I'm nowhere near done. My style will continue to evolve as I continue to evolve. That's the point I'm trying to make. You can't point at someone else's life well lived and buy it off of Amazon. Go live your own, and hope some other consumerism rotted mind will try and buy yours instead, I guess. I don't know. Now, I'm going to focus a lot on individuality in this podcast and use the words stand out a whole lot. I don't think personal style should be equated with being as unique and different as possible, because I don't think it is. Personal style is about preference, dressing for your lifestyle, and expressing yourself. That's the point I'm trying to make. It's totally fine to dress like everyone else if that is your preference. However, it has to be you making the choice for you. When I use individuality and standing out throughout the rest of this episode, I don't mean being as unique and different as possible. I mean choosing to be yourself as an individual. Choosing to dress for yourself as an individual in a climate that does not favour that sort of individual expression, in a climate that I believe often wants us to be a monolith, while at the same time trying to divide us with these ideas of uniqueness. I hope that made sense, because it's important to me that I make this distinction early on. Personal style is you choosing clothes based on your preference, lifestyle, and how you want to express yourself outwardly. That is why personal style can never truly die. Now, onwards. Personal style is at its core a daily choice. A personal choice we make every single day. I'm going to use the F word here. Fascism doesn't want us to make our own choices. It doesn't want us to be individuals or to make noise or to have our own opinions, especially us women. It wants us all to stop thinking for ourselves, stop learning, stop having our own ideas, stop thinking, period, really. When you buy into this ludicrous belief that personal style is dead, you are giving away the power this choice holds. It is, I think, one of the first steps to giving away your power entirely, to erasing yourself. Rule 8 of Timothy Snyder's book is stand out. To quote, "Someone has to. It is easy to follow along. It can feel strange to do or say something different, but without that unease, there is no freedom. Remember Rosa Parks. The moment you set an example, the spell of the status quo is broken and others will follow." Now, his book isn't about fashion, and I am not saying that embracing your own style is tantamount to what Rosa Parks did either, God no, but I do think some of his rules can be used in this context. Like I said, people dress the same under fascism. When the powers that be want everyone to look and think the same, daring to stand out even a little bit is a form of protest, no matter how small it may seem. It is impactful. During World War II, it was well known that Hitler hated women in red lipstick, or makeup in general. So many women wore red lipstick as a form of protest. It even became synonymous with the victory that followed. Victory Red. I have seen a lot of talk online about how fashion trends should have predicted the rise of fascism in the West that we are currently seeing, and maybe it should have. Cottagecore, tradwives, silent luxury, clean girl, all seeking an idealised life, a romanticised version of years past where women had no power, they were hardly human at all. A past where their job was to keep quiet, cook food, raise children, and never have any money of their own to spend on whatever they wanted. Hell, even learning was something women were barely allowed to do. It was all too much for the fairer, weaker sex. Maybe we didn't notice the warnings that these trends were giving us because at the time they were standing out. Would we have listened? If someone were to stand up and say, "Look at this, everyone, we're heading into darker times because women want to wear puffy blouses and cook for their husbands." It's deeper than that, of course, but I don't think we would have, because I'm pretty sure people did speak out about it. We just didn't listen. That's the thing with trends and I guess propaganda, because fashion is a powerful tool for propaganda. You don't even know you're buying into it. Fashion is a powerful political tool and a powerful tool of control. We don't even think about it in that way because we often write it off as frivolous. It's a women's thing, so it's obviously frivolous. But take that same mindset and realise how women are often the biggest targets for consumerism. A lot of things are marketed so that women and young girls will buy them specifically. And doesn't it make sense that it could be used to encourage certain mindsets or to control at the very least how we look and want to look? But beyond that, as we all know, clothes are a basic necessity in all of our lives. So the people who decide what clothes we wear have a whole lot of power over us. We just don't think about it. We're disconnected from it. The fashion industry is ran by billionaires. They decide what's popular and what's not. They choose what gets put on the racks in our favourite high street shops. They fund the marketing for the clothes and our trends. They shove them all down our throats and tell us, "This is what all the it girls are wearing. Wear this if you want to make heads turn, if you want to be hot enough to be human. This is what feminine, respectable ladies are wearing. Wear this if you want basic respect from your peers, specifically the male kind. This is what real men wear. Real men who go out and do work while their wives cook them a loaf of bread. Wear this if you want your men friends to see you as a man's sort of man." It doesn't happen overnight, but these seeds are planted somehow. You don't even realise it, but they continue to grow, and before you know it, you start watering them all by yourself. Billionaires, whether they themselves are particularly fashionable, have their grubby, greasy little hands all over the fabric we choose to put on our bodies. That thought has given me a disease from saying it out loud. Yuck. Standing out in times like these helps to signal to targeted groups and to the people that share your views that you are an ally. You are a safe person. Historically, this has of course been done in the LGBTQIA+ community. Signet rings, certain ties, flowers as symbolism. Now, more than ever, it is important for us to be able to recognize each other. I see a lot of people being deeply scared, talking about wanting to go back into the closet, and who can blame them? I mean, I was so mad at myself for declaring my identity, when fascism has been throwing a huge party. It felt like I'd shot myself in the foot, like there's no going back now. I watch my friends in America be put even more at risk every single day because of that what's-it standing on the world stage. It is worrying. I hear about our own army of what's-its in this country. It is worrying. There are no words that can take away that fear. But if you can find it within yourself to continue being proud of your identity, to not be silenced, please be as loud as you can. When I first heard that conservatism was going to rule fashion, and that in fact it had already been on the rise with longer hemlines and the aforementioned clean girl aesthetic, also the usage of "you look so clean" as a compliment, which is frankly just off because what the hell? I promised myself that I would veer into the opposite direction. But I found myself for a time being swept up in all of that discourse before I identified it as what it was, or is. I have tattoos, and suddenly I was being served so much content about women, not men, being discouraged from getting tattoos or encouraged to get their tattoos removed because it would look bad with their future wedding dresses. I don't even want to get married, but I didn't want people looking at the ink on my skin and thinking it was dirty. It is so easy to get swept up in these mindsets. So easy. It's important to be vigilant. I hope to get a new tattoo in the near future just to fight that mindset in my own way. I check in with myself now to make sure that the choices I'm making in regards to my appearance are my own. I wear minimal makeup when I go out day to day. Why? Is it my own choice? Who am I doing this for? Myself, it turns out, because it saves me a whole lot of time, and I don't think I need to try and be as beautiful as possible every waking hour of my day, just in case someone looks at me and decides I am the love of their life because I have mascara on my eyelashes. Is it my choice to leave the house in baggy jeans and a shirt? Yes, it is, because I don't have the mental energy every time I go out to put on a groundbreaking outfit, and it's comfortable, which is important to me. When I wear one of my gorgeous vintage dresses, am I wearing it to appease to a certain gaze or a certain idea of how women should dress? I can't say no definitively, but I do know that it's also because I find dresses to be very comfortable, and they're bright and pretty, and I think I feel most like myself in a beautiful vintage dress. And remember that I decided that when I'm going out at night, I'm going to wear heavier makeup, obvious makeup. Because I had stopped wearing that makeup influenced by a trend in no makeup, because I thought that people would think worse of me if they could tell that I had it on for some reason. This was sort of during my recent experimental straight era, well, not straight, but we'll call it that, when I was overly concerned with how men viewed me, and I definitely fell into a trap of femininity content. The kind that convinces you that being considered attractive to men gives you some kind of power in this patriarchal world. It doesn't. It never does. Not real power. I don't know. But once I realised where that thought was coming from, I just decided it was better to go the complete opposite direction. I've been a lot happier for it. When I decided to stop dyeing my hair red and to grow it out to an insane length, I had to ask myself a lot of questions. Am I doing this to conform and appease a certain ideal? I realised that no. Dyeing my hair and continuously cutting it into a certain style had begun to feel performative. It didn't feel like me anymore. And I distinctly remember asking my mum, "Do you think I'll still be pretty with my natural hair?" That's where my priorities were. I like my hair really long because I feel like Cher or a medieval princess when she's ripped off her veil. I like my natural hair colour because I don't feel like I have to wear a full face of makeup just to pull it off. I think at some point I just decided that making these decisions was punk as hell. Making your own decisions in regards to your appearance is punk as hell. I saw a comment under a TikTok about fashion under fascism that said, "What are the punks wearing? Whatever the fuck we want." And 2 comments below, someone simply said, "Hot pants." I agree. Punk is rebellion. And when we are being pressured to fit in and conform, there will naturally be rebellion and resistance. I mean, don't we all love doing what we're told not to? Embrace that mindset. Embrace the mindset that what you wear and how you present yourself is a form of resistance. Because it is. When I go out wearing no makeup, that's resistance. Because I am not in this world to be beautiful. I don't owe anyone my appearance. Beauty is not the rent I pay for existing in this world. I don't have to fit into this narrow expectation of how a woman should present herself, always put together, always ready to be looked upon by an expecting gaze. When I wear bold eyeshadow, that is resistance, because it's not necessarily within the margins of what is acceptable makeup to some people. Makeup that is you but better, which is totally bogus. I think I've realised that makeup is one of the ways I empower myself, but regardless, I still think just wearing whatever clothes you want to do is also resistance. Don't let yourself get lost in a crowd of people who all look the same. I will always be an advocate for standing out in any way because it shows others that it's possible. As Snyder said, the moment you set an example, the spell of the status quo is broken, and others will follow. Set an example. Be your own example. When I buy from other people on Vinted or charity shops, that is resistance, because by doing that I'm taking money away from the big corporations that underpay their workers. When you choose to mend your clothing instead of replacing it, when you take good care of it so that it lasts, that is resistance against capitalism and consumerism. When you choose to customize your clothes with patches, embroidery and buttons, or to even make your own entirely, that is resistance. That is resistance because that is individuality, one of fascism's biggest enemies. I don't know if this bit made sense, but what I'm trying to say is that it is punk as fuck to wear whatever the hell you want to in the face of fascism. It's what punk was made for. Sorry if I just misappropriated punk. That's my own interpretation. I never feel safer in a room than when I walk in and see someone with brightly coloured hair already in it. Than when I notice a rainbow pin on someone's bag or the thick eyeliner around their eyes. Than when I hear someone stomping in with their big, chunky, powerful boots. Than when I spot their crazily coloured nail polish. When someone in a room full of strangers dares to stand out, that is when I feel most safe. If I can, I would like to be that person for someone else. Though I admit my outfits are perhaps only subtly non-conforming, I still hope someone looks at me and feels a little more grounded in this uncertain world. I hope they see my cat earrings and think, thank God. I hope they see my very muddy Dr. Martens and think, thank God. I hope they spot the rainbow pin on my bag and feel like they have an ally in reaching distance. These little signifiers of individuality, of identity are important. So important. Now, of course, I am a white, cisgendered, I assume, relatively straight passing from the fact that no women have fallen in love with me yet woman. I have the privilege of being able to take off my individuality whenever I want to. Well, except for the woman part, I still have to suffer with the consequences of that. Many of the groups in which the far right are currently targeting cannot just take off their individuality, the targets on their backs, whenever they want to. Immigrants, people of colour, trans people, they cannot just wake up one day and blend in the way that I can. I don't really know how to speak about this, I'll admit. I feel it isn't really my place as someone who is just not. But I wanted to make a note, because I think ignoring that fact would be wrong and misleading. And I think as well, that fact just makes it even more important that those of us who do have the choice should make the ones that could help those being targeted feel a little more secure and safer. Whether that is in your style by wearing pins and symbols of support, or with direct action, using your voice, doing what you can, not accepting what you're told blindly. I hope this small section was okay. I'm concerned about not touching on it properly, but I'm doing my best. I'd say listen to the voices of people of colour, immigrants and trans people at this time, all the time, and most importantly, believe them. Believe their stories and believe their experiences. They are not the ones who benefit from lying. That is important to remember. The clothes we wear and the way we purchase them is important, and it does say something about us, whether we like it or not. It says something about the state of the world around us. It's crazy when I think about how the way we think about clothes have changed so much over the last century or less. I don't know the exact number. All I know is we own something like 5 times more clothes than we did in the 80s. And there's enough clothing on the planet now to dress the next 6 generations. We do not need to be making as many new clothes as we are. We don't need to be owning as many clothes as we are. And it pains me to say that because my biggest vice is shopping for clothes, and I do own more clothes than I should. But I comfort myself with the fact that I'm almost certain 90% of my closet is second-hand. Perfection isn't the goal when it comes to sustainability, but we should be buying second-hand when we can. And if we don't, it does say something about us. I understand the argument that some people can only afford fast fashion. The problem with that argument is that it's often used by people who can afford fast fashion alternatives. They'd just rather buy 50 new items from Shein instead of spending that money on 1 or 2 sustainable or second-hand items of clothing that would last them much longer. Those who really can only afford fast fashion aren't buying it to follow the speedy trend cycle, to buy a whole new wardrobe every 2 months. They're doing it out of necessity, perhaps also because Depop resellers have pushed them out of charity shops and thrift stores. As a whole, our mindset around consuming and clothing needs to change. I myself am not innocent when it comes to hoarding clothes. The way we shop for clothes has changed monumentally. In the past, clothing was something that was tailor-made, either by a tailor or by a family member or yourself. The money we spend on fully made clothes now was spent on the materials. That's why rich people wore all that silk and stuff. It was expensive as hell. Normal people who weren't, going to balls all the time had specific clothes for specific occasions, and they were cycled in and out for those occasions. Certain clothes were not washed, which is a bit of a different subject, but it's an important part to how we used to think about clothes. Clothes were worn for years, and they could be adjusted for changing bodies and changing fashions a lot of the time. When they were no longer useful to the wearer, they were passed on to someone else or repurposed entirely, whether that be the fabric scrapped and used for something different, or perhaps made into a whole new garment. Even rich ladies used to pass their old clothes on to servants. We hardly even mend our clothes nowadays. A button falls off and we never repair it. I am guilty of this. We don't repurpose our garments. We don't see the value in tailoring, and we don't want to spend our money on quality. We want to spend it on quantity. And when a garment no longer serves us, we discard it in some way, because once it's out of our hands, it isn't our responsibility. We don't see the damage it creates. But we are seeing the damage it creates. We are experiencing the damage it creates in extreme weather across the globe. No one is immune to that. We just don't see the direct correlation. Out of sight, out of mind. But fast fashion and the fashion industry as a whole is one of the biggest contributors to climate change and pollution. It's also, as we know, responsible for horrendous working conditions that are just not human rights or human life friendly at all. To quote Hank Green, people think that shirts are made by magic. They're made by people. Reconnect with the process of how the clothes you wear are made, and fight for the rights of those making them. The way we shop for our clothes, the clothes we wear, are a direct result of the state of our world. And whether we like to admit it or not, as long as we feed into the toxicity of the fashion industry, we are contributing to these problems. Though, of course, it's the ones at the top that need to make the biggest changes of all by just not doing what they've been doing. But the whole point is regular people play a part as well. If enough regular people make certain changes, it will impact those in power in some way, and perhaps they will be forced to make a change of their own, even if it's only for the same selfish reasons they are currently destroying our planet: money. But nothing changes if nothing changes. If they aren't willing to change and we aren't willing to change, then I guess we must all be ready to burn. But hey, at least it will be in a flimsy polyester dress that will melt on our skin while the planet's on fire. So cute. Also, you can buy clothes on Vinted for like £1 plus shipping. If you're not buying clothes every single day, that's pretty affordable. eBay is also a goldmine for cheap clothes if you're willing to scroll for a while. And I'm sure we could all spare some time from TikTok brain rot to search for some cheap clothes that won't contribute to climate crisis. I don't know, that's my sustainability rant, because sustainability is political. Of course, direct action is incredibly important when it comes to all of this, but not everyone has the ability or capacity to participate in those bigger ways. Like I said at the start, there's tons of small but impactful actions you can take. Fashion is just another one of them. Like with everything in the current political and social climate, I want you to question what you are fed when it comes to fashion. When you see an influencer posting a video claiming that personal style is over, really ask yourself, why, and is it? When you're seeing someone that this dress, this core, this aesthetic is the next big thing, run, don't walk to the nearest store. Ask yourself why. Who decided that? Who will benefit from that? When I go outside, do I see people wearing this? Is it true? Is it based on fact? When you look at your clothes and when you choose an outfit, ask yourself why. Why am I wearing this? Is it for me? Who am I wearing this for? Am I hiding away? How can I show others like me that I am safe? Asking yourself questions is so important. It's all about being aware. Lesson 20. Be as courageous as you can. If no one is willing to die for freedom, then all of us will die under tyranny. I'm not saying die for fashion. I'm not saying to risk yourself or your safety unnecessarily. Your choices and how they will affect you, that is for you to decipher and unpack and unpick. But freedom is not a given. We do not receive freedom and equality once and for all, ever after. We must remind those that try to take it away from us that it is ours, and we will have it or we will go down fighting for it. This idea of democracy, freedom and equality are all still very new in the grand scheme of things. They are hundreds of years old, but the opposite of that is thousands of years old. So we have to put in the work to fight for it and show that we will not give up. We must write our own history instead of letting history win. I don't know if that made sense. The choices we make every day may seem insignificant. We're just another civilian among many, but they are not. They have impact. Use it wisely. The future is now. That was a pretty serious episode compared to my last ones. I'm sorry, I want to be silly and goofy all the time, but unfortunately I cannot. This is important to me, and it has been on my mind a lot, probably too much. I hope it all made sense, and if you have your own perspective to share on the subject, please do, and correct me if I was wrong anywhere, because I am always happy to learn more. I'm going to link a couple Substack articles I read that touch on the same subject, and some YouTube videos as well. I also cannot recommend Timothy Snyder's book enough. Ooh, did you hear my teeth clang together? That was horrible. Anyways, he has another one far more recently released in 2024 called On Freedom, which I imagine reflects the current climate even more accurately. I plan on buying it soon. You should too. On a totally different note, you may have noticed we're not exactly multimedia yet. Unfortunately, the Google podcast producer has been going through it and has had to press pause on that project. But keep looking forward to it nonetheless. Google Studios have big plans. With all that being said, I'm going to sing an awesome song to bring the mood back up while we end this episode. Thanks for listening. This is Super Graphic Ultra Modern Girl by Chapel Roan. Oh, how does it go? You know what they say. Oh, I'm not going to play the music, by the way, so it's a cappella. You know what they say. Never waste a Friday night on a first date. But there I was, in my heels with my hair straight. And so I take him to this bar. This man wouldn't dance. He wouldn't ask me a single question. He wouldn't ask me a single question. And he was wearing these fugly jeans. It doesn't matter though. He doesn't have what it takes to be with a girl like me. Oh, not over dramatic. I know what I want. We're leaving the planet and you can't come. Oh, I'm through with all these hyper mega bomber boys like you. Oh yeah, I need a super graphic ultra modern girl like me. We're high, we're drunk. Wow, look at her moving, baby, she's the one. Oh yeah, I need a super graphic ultra modern. Ooh, she got me la la line. Hyper sexy top to bottom girl like me. Oh Jesus. Jesus. Okay, bye.